Dom, would you like to buy a used car?
This baby can fit so many.
um, yeah, this was my pick this week. And if you want to give the little intro,
The
um,
synopsis. So this week's movie is Used Cars, directed by Robert Zemeckis and released in 1980. It stars Kurt Russell, Gerrit Graham, and Jack Warden. I hope I'm pronouncing those names
yep,
right.
yep, pretty much.
Kurt Russell is a used car salesman, as the name might imply, working for a kindly owner of a
Yeah,
used car lot.
yeah,
And his chief competitor is his evil brother, evil twin brother
yeah,
across the street.
yeah,
So when the owner of Kurt Russell's lot dies, in order to avoid his brother, the owner's brother, from taking over and basically putting him out of a job, he uses the most out there crazy tactics to make sure no one finds out this guy is dead,
right.
and B, that they keep selling cars to keep the lot.
Yeah, and one of the things with the brothers really don't like each other, but the mean brother, um, he's actually like really evil. He's actually trying to cause his
Oh,
brother to have a
oh,
heart
right.
attack.
Ultimately, he's the one that kills his brother.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He
Although the way he does it, like, you know, entertaining, I guess.
yeah, yeah,
But wow, if the guy's got a bad heart and you just need to cause some sort of stress to tip him over the edge,
yeah.
hiring a guy to basically wreck his car and endanger his life with him in it,
Oh yeah,
it
no,
seems a little extreme.
the guy sets out. He does literally set out to give him a heart attack. He acts like he's a prospective buyer, gets him in the car with him to go on a test drive, and the guy is a stunt driver, and he takes him on this wild ride that causes him to actually start going into, and he causes the guy to spill his heart pills, so that there he is. Um, and when he gets out of the car, he's still alive. He gets back into the place and keels over and has a heart attack right there. And the brother is spying with spy glasses across the street. And the next day, of course, he comes over to take over, and is that's one of the things that the nice brother had said to Kurt Russell: "Whatever you do, don't let him get my dealership. I don't want him to get his hands." Of course, he should have had a will if he felt like that, but he didn't. And so the next day, the evil brother comes over, and there's Kurt Russell and his two compatriots there, and they are just finishing burying the guy in a pit, and they're still holding the shovels. Um, you know, I don't know what you thought of this movie after all these years. I remember seeing this when you guys were way younger, you and your brother, and I remember like really liking the movie, but I remember you guys really liking the movie. And it oddly enough, I think I like really appreciate the movie after all these years much more than I did even back then. I don't know like how you feel about it.
The movie is undoubtedly funny. I would defy anyone to watch this movie and not laugh.
Yeah.
It's a funny movie. But this is also a movie that is very much of a time.
Oh yeah.
I love that
Absolutely.
phrase. Most people, or I should say, I think most Americans will realize what I mean by that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it wasn't that long ago that as a whole, as a culture, we were pretty sexist, misogynistic, racist. throw all the words you
Yeah.
want in there. We were not as enlightened. We were not as
No.
woke a
No.
society as
Yeah.
we are now.
Yeah.
So, well, it's funny. I will be watching this and also shaking my
Oh
head.
yeah. No, you can't help it. There's definitely, especially the misogynistic thing, because I'll tell you what though, I love the gratuitous nudity that's in.
I would not call it gratuitous.
No, not really. It's actually just really
There,
funny.
there was just enough to get. No, I'm
Yeah,
guessing this got no rating.
this is the scene that behind me, where they're doing a commercial, and it wasn't like that. Nobody tore her clothes off. It was, they were trying to do a commercial that would just work for them, and everything's going wrong in the commercial.
And her clothes just happened to get torn off.
Yes,
No
yes,
one was to blame.
as those things are, want to do. Her clothes just come off. And it starts with like her dress being torn, and then next thing you're all of a sudden seeing panties, and then all of a sudden there's boobs. And but like I said, it's all pretty brief. This movie, I feel this movie is extremely funny. The amount of the cast of characters in this, I mean, my God. The bit part there's part of the clothes coming off, but the amount of bit players that are in this, and the amount of casual actors that are in it. We got Lenny and Squiggy in this one.
Yep,
I mean, how
yep.
how great is that?
I
Lenny,
gotta say, I've always felt bad for this guy.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
Gerrit Graham.
yeah.
As I told Lisa, you won't know his name, but you'll recognize him the minute you see him.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He's been in hundreds of things, and he's a good actor, and he
yeah.
just never caught on.
No, no, he's definitely, there he is there. He's definitely somebody that, if you've seen as many movies as we've seen, certainly you've seen this guy's face and you know him.
Mhm.
Um, but there's tons of little actors, but there's some big ones, and you even there's Lenny and Squiggy again, and
You
like I
can't call
said,
them small because, like, so Lenny and Squiggy, that is Michael McKean and David Lander.
yes, and
Um,
if you
and
if you're at
like
all into, no, go
arguably
ahead.
Michael McKean is almost as big as Kurt Russell these days.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, well, actually, easily, I think as big. All of the movies that he's made, Spinal Tap and Best in Show, all of those terrific films. They're great comedies. I keep meaning to pull one of those out for one of our choices, because they're great movies. And so yeah, he all of those ones that he's done. I mean, Spinal Tap, my God, that's
It's a
so,
classic.
oh my God, it's so funny. But I mean, movies like Best in Show, and Waiting for Guffman. There's tons of movies that he's involved with that are just terrific. And this movie also has, it's from, from the Munsters. It's you know
Hmm.
it's Grandpa Munster. And I mean, how good is that? He's the judge in this, and he's actually he's a no nonsense judge. He's like the hanging judge, but he's actually really kind of rooting for them in the end, when
Well,
they're
he's
measuring
fair if
the,
nothing else.
very fair. In the end, when they're measuring the cars, he's actually doing his best to help them out. It's that last little measurement, the license plate falls down, and that's what that there. It's like, okay, well, I guess you got it. He goes, you're counting the license plate, but
I
yeah,
mean,
like I
it's a
said,
classic 80s film. The good guys are in trouble. It looks like the end for them. And then some random little thing comes out and saves the day.
Yeah. And one of the things that like I found Kurt Russell, and it's actually right before he played Snake Plissken, in Escape from New York. He's but he actually in it's and he's actually like way more buff in Escape from New York, but he's almost he's believe me, he's not chubby by any means, but his face is way more like babyish in this one. And when you look at certain scenes of him, he looks so young in this. And you
I,
also
I,
have disco disco Kurt Russell, and
yep.
which I
I
thought
gotta
was,
say, the costuming in this movie was spot on.
oh my God.
Like every outfit anyone wore, it just sent a message. It
Dude,
projected who that character
this
was.
one here, the, his character here, and when he's doing these scenes where he's taking the shotgun, he's shooting the rival brothers' cars. He's going, yeah, this one's too high also, and it's like blam, he shoots it with a shotgun, and you look at the character that it's a little bit hard with.
Did you know they were using live ammo?
No, but it doesn't really surprise me. This movie has got a crazy low budget too, because I mean,
It can't be that low budget. They had so many cars in there.
they did, but they were all wrecks. And you know something? Not every one of those stunts was Kurt Russell on that car chase thing, but he was actually on top of they I actually wanted to check, and he did do a lot of his own stunts in this. And we could have lost Kurt Russell in this early on in his career, because some of those jumps from car to car were dangerous. And I don't know if how closely you looked at some of those jumps, but there were ones that were clearly him in the scene, and he's getting ready to make the jump. And there's one shot in particular, if I have it available, where he's getting ready to jump from one car to the other. There's actually a roof rack. This is it right here. If he had caught his foot on that would have been enough to have put him down in front of that car and got run over. And that is Kurt Russell on top of that car. That is not a stuntman. And those cars are all moving. So, I mean, it's crazy what they were doing. It's, absolutely nuts. And he definitely did a ton of his own stunt work in that. So, like I said, I don't know, to me, the movie was really fun. One of the lines that cracked me up, they're talking about how that one TV spot had turned into a big disaster, and it's the next day, and they're going back and forth about how bad it was, and so Kurt Russell's going, we had nuns, we had nuns protesting out there, and the dude in the red jacket there, I can't think of his name, and I actually don't see it on the credits there, but he goes, yeah, he goes, I had to put a fire hose to their ass. And he says, I knocked him on their ass. And I started cracking up laughing because I had
Uh,
forgotten that line.
that
And
guy?
yes,
Yeah,
it,
so that is Frank McRae.
yeah.
He was a former defensive tackle for the Chicago Bears.
Oh wow, yeah, okay, yep, there he is, Frank McRae. I do have a scene of him in the credits. But yeah, he is hysterical in this movie. There's
He
two or
was
three
great in
scenes.
it. And I'm actually shocked. I haven't seen him in that much else.
No, no. Well, I'll tell you another scene that really had me laughing, and it really, to me, it held up and it worked. Was this scene here? That
Oh,
dog,
that was an awesome scene.
dude, that dog is so well trained. The dog, he had the dog play dead, so that he could sell this car to this guy. He ran over my dog, and of course, the wife, the kids, all these people are looking at the guy, And he goes, well, I'll buy the car. And another scene is when they're driving off, and the kids are they're in football gear and stuff. They're in the back of it. And when I was a kid, I rode in the back of a lot of station wagons. You know, we used to do it. We'd get the exhaust in our face and everything. But that, yeah, there's another. That dog was so talented. I mean, he played. And there's even one scene where the dog puts his head up and he puts his head right back down again. But when they're driving off, the car goes into a like a little rut at the end of the drive before they hit the street, and two of the kids go flying out of the back. Those kids, they were actually two kids that they threw out into the dirt at the end of that road. So, like I said, there were some crazy stunts going on in this, but I don't know, man. I loved a lot of the humor. This one here where he'd use the fishing rod, and it was so silly, and at the same time it was so damn funny to draw this guy over, and he's like, "Oh, you came over to, is this your money?" But yeah,
Well, I mean,
like
there
I
was a
said,
good dose of slapstick in this movie.
oh my God, yeah. But such a good, and like I said, I don't know what you thought of the rewatch, but I loved it even better than before. Um,
I can't say I loved it better. Again, it's a funny movie. Um, it doesn't stand out that much to me.
yeah, I don't know. I loved it. I truly loved it. And I had the reason why I wanted to pull it up. I remember you guys liking it, and I also remember that I liked it. I didn't love it. Um, but I have to say, with the rewatch, there's Disco Kurt again, uh, with I guess a guy in drag. uh, but um, but yeah, like I said, I actually got more enjoyment out of it this time than I did when I was younger. To me, it was
It's a solid movie, but I was looking over Zemeckis's other stuff, and I really prefer his Romancing the Stone that he put out a few years earlier. I
oh
found
yeah,
that much.
he definitely did better stuff later.
He did Back to the Future. He did
Yeah,
Forrest Gump.
yeah, yeah. This is lightweight for Robert Zemeckis.
Mm,
I will not try to say it's one of his finer films. For me, though, this movie lives on very fondly in my memory. And not only that, but like I said, I was pleasantly surprised at how much the humor for me held up. I just felt like I don't know. I rewatched you when you were talking about the idea of you know the humor being like, and I don't think this was really misogynistic, and I don't think it was racist, but it definitely is a little bit more
come
edgy.
on, that Hispanic character.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
Um,
that's
I mean,
that's true.
you
That's true. And
you
they did
cannot
there.
say that it's not racist.
Yeah, there was, but I don't know. I rewatched Animal House not too long ago, and I think that one is way worse
Oh
when it
yeah,
comes to,
yeah, no argument there.
yeah, like I actually thought Animal House was funnier when I was younger. Rewatching it, I thought, this ain't that funny, and I really didn't get into the humor as much as I did back then. This one, it was making me laugh out loud,
Yep.
and that
Again, there's no argument. This is a funny movie.
yeah,
Like I said, I would defy anyone to watch this movie and not laugh.
yeah, and it's got Eugene Levy.
Not
It's
Eugene Levy,
oh
Joe Flaherty.
yeah, Joe Flaherty.
And guess who was supposed to play that role?
No, who?
John Candy.
Oh, that's right. I think you had mentioned something to me about that. That's yeah,
And like it's so often that we talk about, oh yeah, so and so almost got this role,
yeah,
and the movie would have been so much worse if they had went with that way. I think if John Candy had been in this movie, he
Yeah,
would have stole the show.
it would, oh yeah, John Candy would have held this one up.
He would have outstaged everyone.
Yeah, yeah, because John Candy, man at comedy, John Candy was the man.
You can't beat
Um,
him.
and there's another, that was actually, because that's actually him coming off that, where I was talking about the roof rack on that station wagon there, and he's leaping into the back of the pickup. Again, we could have lost Kurt Russell early on in his career because that could have been enough. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. If John Candy had been in that role, I think it would have been better. But hey, Joe Flaherty, another SCTV guy and very talented. So
Oh yeah,
uh,
nothing against him. I'm not throwing shade. That guy is awesome.
yeah, absolutely. I don't know, just overall, I think scenes worked in this. It was, again, this was one of my this was one of my favorite scenes with the shotgun. Um, there's tons of yeah, and this scene actually they managed to make this one fairly funny, where Kurt Russell's trying to tell her no, no, like
That scene was great. My issue is I found her a very uneven character.
yeah, yeah,
So here's the owner's estranged daughter,
yeah,
who definitely throws a spanner in the works because now that she's on the scene, she has a claim to the lot that the evil brother does not like.
right,
But yet, we first meet her,
right,
and we have no idea why she's estranged. That question is never answered because her dad seems like a great stand-up guy, and
yeah.
she seems like a perfectly pleasant person as
I
well.
think all it was really was it was a divorce. They weren't close by each other. She had to travel to see him, and it had been many years. And I just think that they probably got out of touch and lost contact. And for especially for a daughter, I think a lot of daughters they really need that connection with their dad. And she was traveling to see him. Now that's probably one of the worst aspects of this movie is Kurt Russell has buried her father. And how do you? And then they start to develop a romantic. There's a spark, and how do you tell her? And he's trying real hard. There's a couple of scenes where they're talking and they're connecting, um, and he is trying hard. This is one of the scenes. He tries 4 or 5 times in this one scene to tell her, and he can't bring himself to do it because how do you tell? How do you tell a woman? Yeah, listen, we
You
buried your
can't.
dad in a
You
pit.
can't. But like when she ultimately finds out, she doesn't even know they buried him like on the lot.
Yeah,
Even before as soon as she finds out they have anything at all to do with her father's death,
yeah. Dude, that's one of the really funny scenes too, is how they put the father in his car and they floor the car and they they have it drive into propane tanks or whatever it is and blow the car up. And it's actually no, it's doused in gasoline and
yep.
they drive it into a transformer. So the car blows up and they were like, well, he was clearly alive. He was driving the car.
Hey, the brother gives them props about it. He's like
Yeah,
very clean, very public.
yeah,
He
yeah.
knows.
So she ultimately forgives Kurt Russell because she kind of loves him, and that's one of the things in the end that was so damn funny too because one of their used car salesman lines was "Trust me," and she ends up incorporating the line at the end where she's like, "Yeah, trust me," um, but and when he kind of
I
hear,
would have loved to have seen a used car too, where
me
we
too.
actually see him become senator.
Yeah, yeah, because that was one of the other really funny things was he was trying hard to become senator, and I think that yeah that could have made for a very funny movie. So yeah, like I said, especially if they brought back a
I
lot.
honestly like I love that his goal was to be senator
Yeah.
And I love the hilarious statement that a certain amount of money will make him a guarantee for the
Yes.
nomination.
Well,
It's
that
not
guy was
platform,
actually,
it's not popularity, it's how much money.
yeah. Well, and it kind of is.
And I
Um,
don't feel like they did enough with that. That was funny, and I wish they would have leaned into that.
yeah, yeah. Well, again, I don't know what the budget was for this movie. I don't think it was really huge because
$8
even
million.
though
dollars.
even though it's a Zemeckis movie, it's actually relatively early in his before he made all those great films. And
It's post Romancing the Stone, but it's pre Back to the Future, I believe.
okay, yeah, yeah. Well, he's probably he had some whatever his contract was for this particular movie. I think he was probably making something that was it was like this was an in between movie, but that's my gut feeling without
Well,
looking
also
into it.
this is one more example. The more I look into movies, the more I hear about this. This is another movie that the studio bungled the release.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
And so evidently it was testing well with test audiences. It's a solid movie, but they sped up the release date
Yeah,
and they spent almost nothing on advertising. So it wasn't a box office flop, but it
yeah,
certainly didn't do good at the box office.
right, right. Well, and if you think about it, and by the way, the scene here, I just have to crack up laughing because this was it was like
They
what's going
combined racism and misogyny in this
yeah
one scene.
together, yes, in that one shot, because it was clear it was clearly. I mean, the guy is trying to grab her so he can get a hold of. I think he was trying to actually kill her, but there's clear groping in that scene, and I won't keep it on that scene, but no, it's an odd time for like Kurt Russell really wasn't the star that he became later. Right after this movie, he makes he makes Escape from New York. He makes the
Big Trouble in Little China.
yes, The Thing. I mean, all those movies came after,
Yeah,
and
the thing came out this same year, I think.
yeah, but I don't think that yeah maybe but or a year after, but it
Yeah, or a
was
year after.
yeah, but he definitely he was like known more for his Disney movies at this point,
Mm.
and
And he still had that Disney feel for this.
yes, absolutely, absolutely, and the other thing is like you know he's done so many action roles and so, he is really good in comedy. And another movie that I like a lot, and I'd like to at some point I have us tear into this one. Captain Ron is another one that's like a budgety kind of a feel to it. It's got a lot of stars in it. This Captain Ron is actually pretty friggin' funny.
I don't know
Um,
if I've ever seen Captain Ron.
okay, well, we definitely have to do this soon, but I really enjoy it, and it's it's Martin Short. It's just it's a good movie, just a crazy film. So we definitely have to look into that one. But no, this and the other thing is this scene here with all these cars, and I think they're all pretty much junker cars, but
Hey, they
to
ran.
they ran, and the other thing is the amount of drivers that they needed to move these cars. I mean, just the sheer number of cars that they had to get on the road and have them drive. So, like I said, I thought it was just. I mean, you look at that line of cars, and that was another thing I read is that there was some like old route that they had available to them so they could use it because a new highway was being cut in. So they were kind of able to use this old route without causing any problems. But yeah, like I said, I don't know. I think they just did really well with what they had for for a budget for you know, there's stunts. Obviously, they were using an actor to do a lot of those dangerous stunts. So that in itself implies, a lower budget. But and again, Grandpa Munster, come on, he's the judge.
Yep, yep. You can't fault a movie with Grandpa Munster in it.
No, nope. So I don't know. Like I said, I feel I feel this movie held up very well. I love the fact that Lenny and Squiggy are in the movie.
I can't believe they're both in the movie. I thought that was interesting. Like I've
Yeah.
seen each of them on their own in other movies.
Oh yeah. 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 But I mean, they were primarily when they were together, it was primarily Laverne and Shirley. So so that in itself, made for a kind of a funny thing. Uh, and their characters are pretty good too. Even just the way like when they're talking about like, well, how do we do that? And they're like, oh, it's actually pretty easy. All you have to do is hack into this satellite. And
Yeah,
that's
if anything, those two were underutilized.
they interrupted a presidential address.
I know, like, and they didn't even go into the ramifications of that. The FBI would
No.
have been on them in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, there is a scene where the Secret Service actually comes out to try to investigate it, and they actually like just completely threw the Secret Service. They were like, "Well, we think they were Arabs," and they're like,
Oh yeah.
"Oh, okay."
So so at the time, that was 1980, there was a series of Iranian student riots.
Oh yeah.
So
Well,
Iran was big in the news.
there was the hostage crisis. The
I don't
Iranians had
know.
taken over our embassy,
Was that this year or was it?
79, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it
But
was, and I'm not, because 80 is when Reagan got in, and a big part of why Reagan won so solidly against Carter was the Iranian hostage
mhm.
situation, and we bungled a rescue attempt. And I won't even get into that part of it, but it was bungled so badly that the hostages were being kept in the embassy together, and the military said we can get them, but we need to go in and go in hard. And Carter was very, very timid about wanting to do it, and he was asking about, well, what are the casualties going to be? And the military said there could very well be casualties. You've got to be ready to accept that. And he was like, I'm not ready to deal with that. But they went and did a rescue attempt using less troops and one less helicopter than the military was recommending. And there was a problem. One of the helicopters had a hard landing, and they were like, Carter was like, pull it. And we pulled out. The Iranians realized that we were trying to make a rescue attempt, and they split all the hostages up, and they made it impossible to rescue them. So then it had to be negotiations. And that's where, but anyway, so this was that whole time. And it was probably right after that, the year Reagan got in. And so the whole thing with Iranians and terrorism and the whole thing was such a hot item.
Which it might not have been a hot item when this came out. And
It's a
so the screenwriter wrote other lines,
really,
other factions to blame that incident on, so that
yeah,
if Iran was not the hotbed it was,
right.
they would switch some other thing, like
Huh,
Russians
huh,
or whatever. So
yeah,
they were ready politically to shift the story.
nice. Well, like I said, I find the humor in this to be really funny, and granted, it's maybe not totally politically correct, but it's damn funny, and I think for the most part, it holds up really well. And by the way, in this scene here, behind Kurt Russell up in the air is that car that's
Mhm.
tilted in the air. That is the the car that they stick the good brother in and
It's
set
a
it on.
fitting casket, I gotta say.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's absolutely hysterical. They douse the car in gasoline and just send it on its on its way. I mean, I was cracking up because they even, having the guy sit there propped up. He's been dead for weeks, I guess. And they basically cremate the guy the guy right there in front of everybody. It's like, oh, there he is. Everybody's pointing off in the distance. And of course it like everybody's they're convinced at that point, yeah, he's alive. So, and this is another scene. Kurt Russell is using fix-a-flat on this tire. Back then, I remember like during like the late 70's and early 80's, there were a lot more. I don't see the sleazy, and I'm sure there's plenty of them around, but I don't see the tactics that used car salesmen used back then were
You know,
so bad.
this this movie is a time capsule in so many ways.
Yeah,
And one of them is just the landscape of buying a used car has changed so
it
drastically.
has. It really has. You they don't have the ability to get away with the bullshit that they used to get away with. There were car salesmen that were doing stuff like a bad transmission. They would put sawdust in the transmission, and if you did, you could make the transmission shift a little better for a little while, but probably like 50, 100 miles down the road, the transmission was going to totally shit the bed. So there were so many tactics, and this fix a flat. I remember people doing that with tires just for a temporary fix. But yeah, like I
I'm
said,
still shocked. Like here in Portland, we've got a rather famous, or I should say, infamous
hmm,
street, 82nd Avenue.
yeah,
And it's infamous for a number of reasons. One
yeah,
reason is because there's a ton of accidents on it. It's
yeah,
extremely dangerous.
yeah,
But it's the one place that is lined with used car
yeah,
lots.
yeah.
And I am still shocked that there are physical used car lots.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, hey, they still they I see them around here. There's little used car lots in different places, so it's not like there aren't people doing it. And I'm sure there's plenty of sleazy used car salesmen. Still, I mean, that's not the way that I've bought cars in recent years, but there's plenty of that. I'm sure still going on. But man, the tactics back then, they could get away with a lot more sleaze, I think, that you can't get away
Oh
with.
yeah.
I
Well, I
mean,
mean, the cars are designed differently. The if someone needs an auto loan, the way the loans go through are so different.
yeah.
You can't use as underhanded a technique.
Well, I won't say the town, but the town I'm talking about. We had a guy in that town, and he was infamous for doing all kinds of tactics, everything from selling used cars that were bad to he had a gas station, and in the summertime tourists would come through, and I like I said, I'm not going to say the guy's name or even the town, but you know what I'm talking about. And one of his tactics was check your oil because it was a full service gas station, and the person would say sure. So he'd pop the hood, and he would pull the dipstick out, look at it, and go, "Yeah, you're a quart low." And then he would come out with his empty oil can, and he would put in an empty oil can. And he got caught a couple of times because somebody came over and or the can fell off somehow or whatever. But the people realized, wow, the can's empty. But he did that for years, and he was such a sleaze. He also had a tactic where he would old people that lived in the area in the town and the surrounding towns if they got in trouble with their property taxes, he would say, because they were old and poor, he would say, I'll tell you what, I'll pay off your overdue taxes and I'll keep your taxes paid off and you can live in the house until you die, but you got to sign the house over to me. And he took over so
Wait,
many
was
people's
he the originator of the reverse mortgage?
kind of. I mean, this would have been in the late 70s. Um, and anybody that, if I named the town or the man's name, there'd be so many people that would know, but I'm not going to do it. Um, I don't need a lawsuit because of that, but I'm telling you, um, I can say his name off camera, but I can't say it on. Uh, but yeah. Oh, and that's another thing in this movie. I had never seen Kurt Russell smoking, and he
No,
smokes in this.
that did strike me as interesting.
Wasn't it? It was he was smoked cigars, cigarettes. Um, he's smoking in this movie, and there's several scenes of him doing it. So I don't know whether he was a smoker, but he certainly did in this movie. So,
I
but
don't think he was because it's not like I've seen him smoke in a lot of movies. I think he
no.
just thought the character would be.
Well, it actually threw me when I saw, because I was like, wow, Kurt Russell smoking. But like I said, he is such a young baby face guy in this, and it that in itself was kind of amusing to me. But yeah, like I said, and look at this. This was one of the posters for the movie. Just a fun movie. I love this movie. Uh, I have to say, to me, it's lived up just as well as when I was younger. Oh, this driver, she was so timid. The scene you just pulled up, and that was another
Yep.
thing, is that the driver's ed guy was so mad at Kurt Russell because he had promised the students cars, and he's like, yeah, just trust me. Well, in the end, he came through for them. They all got to drive. They all got to pass their driver's test. The entire high school
He
got their
he even gave them a history lesson.
yes.
We used to drive 75 miles per
Well,
hour.
and you know something, that was there, like if you grew up in that time period, and I was old enough to remember, we used to have 65, 70, 75, depending on what part of the country, but definitely 65. And the talking about the problems with the Iranians, and the Arabs had started OPEC, so they were using that to raise oil prices. So all of a sudden and then they were cutting off the supply. So because they started saying, oh, well, there's limited number of oil. We've since discovered like huge pools of oil. We've got plenty of oil. It's bad for the environment. but but as far as like, there was a shortage. There were gas lines. They
I
put the
remember
yeah, and they put and that was another thing. I don't know whether that was Nixon or Carter,
that
that
was
had put,
Carter.
but yeah, they put the speed limit down, and the truckers were going nuts because they couldn't make their deliveries driving 55. And of course, there's the famous song, "I Can't Drive 55,"
Which
but
came out quite a bit later than
that was
that.
quite a bit later. Yeah, but
I'm
yeah,
like, at this point, you should be used to 55.
yeah, but they weren't, and nobody was really doing it. It was a lot of ticketing going on. It was a great way to make money for states and towns, but talking about sleaze going on with, there were cops had quotas. They had to get a certain number of tickets because it brought in revenue. I mean, it was, it was a bad time for all that. But the truckers were just, that's when all the things like Convoy, uh, movies like that came out. People were just so pissed off and upset about that speed limit being there. And if you think about it now, the average person on the highway is doing, they're doing 80 miles an hour. That's cruising speed nowadays. So I mean, we've totally gone in the other direction. But but yeah, I mean, Americans love their cars and they love to drive fast.
I was going to say you've chosen quite a few car centric movies.
Yeah, yeah, yep. Well, you know, I really, there's so many car movies that I truly love, and I haven't done half of the, or I haven't picked half of the ones that I want to pick. You know, we've mentioned a few of them in talking, but man, I love like a good car chase scene. And there's a particular movie that I really want to do, Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry.
Mm,
I am absolutely going to pick that at some point. So
I,
be
I
ready
I
for,
remember the car chase and Bullet.
yeah.
I
Oh my God,
remember
yeah.
I do not remember Dirty Mary Crazy Larry.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I got to do it because I got to
But
get you to
one of my
watch that.
all-time favorite car chases is Ronin.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's a good, and they're actually driving in that. There's
Hmm.
one of the problems that I have. Most of the movies that are done nowadays, it's it's CGI. It's
Mm,
there's a lot of green screen. It's not the same. And back then, I don't know if you remember the movie Seven Ups. I'm pretty
yeah.
sure you saw it at some point.
Yeah, I just recently rewatched that like a year or two ago.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a great scene where it's Roy Scheider, right? That's in
Yep,
that,
yep.
and he's driving a car and he's chasing these bank robbers, I believe, or they're definitely robbers, and they've killed somebody, and one of them is in the back seat of one of the cars or the car, and he's got a sawed off shotgun, and he pulls in front of a bus, and he starts slowing down, so the bus has to slow down, and the bus, of course, is right on his butt, and he punches out the window and he's got the sawed off and Roy Scheider is hauling ass trying to pass this bus and the guy's right there waiting for him and the driver's going like this to Roy Scheider like trying to warn him and at the last second he sees the bus driver and he I think he just ends up like going underneath the dash and having the windshield blown out. He would have been killed, but that is a great scene in the Seven Ups, and I love movies that have scenes like that. So terrific movie, terrific.
But dragging it back to the movie at hand.
Yes,
But behind you, I gotta say, I know it's Kurt Russell. I just watched the movie. It looks so much like John Ritter there.
yeah, yeah. Well,
But for a
again,
minute, I flashed there. I'm like, is that John Ritter?
dude, he is so young in this movie.
He
I
is.
mean, he's, and it's funny because he doesn't look as young in Escape from New York, and when you look at him
Well,
in
no,
this,
because they roughed him up.
yeah. Well, he also got buffed up too. I mean, he's a
Yep.
there's a couple of scenes of him. I don't know if he actually doesn't have his shirt on or something, but he's a lot more. I wouldn't describe him as doughy, but he's just not muscly, and he's ripped in Escape from New York, and even in the Thing, you can see that he's more buffed up. So in this one, it's I don't know what the whole deal was where he decided, but he's Disco Kurt in this one. So, but yeah, like I said, I don't know. I found this movie completely amusing in so many ways, and like I said, I have my favorite scenes, and that's definitely one of them with the dog, where he's that dog. It was, I guess, a beagle. That dog is so talented. I have to give that dog props. He completely lays. You talk about a dog playing dead. He completely goes limp. And when you are holding a dog and it's that limp, that's a talented dog. He's been really well trained.
But I mean,
Uh,
all these dogs are trained. Like I just wrote a piece on the Thin Man,
oh yeah,
and Asta, that was a really well trained dog.
yes, it was.
And
It
then we
was.
just watched Bringing Up Baby a few months ago,
Okay,
and
yeah,
well-trained animals
Yeah,
are one of the unsung cast members in a lot of movies.
yeah, because if the animal is actually adding to the movie the way the this particular beagle added to this, I was laughing when the dog is like he runs under the car and just lays there, and he's like, "Oh, you ran over my dog," and of course the guy's traumatized, his family's traumatized, the and he's like, "Well, I'll buy the car," a car that he did not want to buy. And it's like a totally great
A car
trick.
that he should not have bought.
No, no, there was nothing about that he wanted to own that. But I,
So here's the thing. I've got very few things to actually add to the discussion about this movie. This is clearly a two thumbs up movie. And
yes,
there are some
yeah,
I
yeah,
laughed out loud in
yeah.
some scenes. You know, however, I'm not going to say it wasn't that exceptional a comedy. If you're compiling the top 10 comedies
Oh, I know.
of
I
the
no.
1980s, this isn't there. So
Yeah,
great movie, two thumbs up worthy, funny, laugh out loud funny, but it's just a comedy.
yeah. It is. It is. But I find it to be a very amusing,
Mhm.
very fun movie to watch. So no, it's I totally agree with you. It's not one of it's. I'm not going to put it up there with planes, trains, and automobiles, or
Or
whatever.
airplane or
Yeah, yeah, it's not that, but what it is it's a solid fun comedy. And
yes.
so for anybody that's listening to us, if you're looking for a movie that's just good fun, um and you don't, you're not gonna, this isn't Gone with the Wind, it isn't, it certainly isn't Casablanca, it's not, and it's not Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. What it is a good fun movie. And so if you're looking for a movie for a Saturday afternoon, evening, whatever,
Yeah,
this is a,
you want some lighthearted fun. If you want to turn your brain off and just laugh,
yeah,
great
it's a
movie.
it's a good solid choice. And so for that, I would say we probably said about as much as we could say for this one. Like I said,
The only thing I'll add to this
yeah,
is the New York Times called Used Cars the most underrated comedy of all time.
wow, wow. So maybe you want to rethink that thought about,
No, no, no. Just because it's underrated doesn't mean it's great. It's just not as well
well,
regarded as it should be.
but I can kind of agree with that because my memory of this when I first saw it, I remember thinking of it more like in terms of what you just were saying. Well, it's not your, it's not going to be in your top 10, and it's not, but I'll rank it pretty high
It's a
as far
solid
as like
comedy.
a good fun. There's so many comedies that people talk about that I would rate much lower than this.
Mhm.
And so it's not, like I said, it's not a stellar movie. It's not an Academy Award winner. It's just a good fun watch.
Yep.
And so for anybody that hasn't seen this movie, and I don't think we've spoiled the movie for you, but with what we've
And
talked
you
about,
can't. This is like there's no surprise ending.
no,
You know,
no,
it's just fun.
yeah, yeah, it is. And it's got a good cast. It's a fun cast. Everybody kind of works pretty well. It's a little corny at
Eh,
times. It's a little silly.
again, of
Um,
an age.
yeah, certainly of an age and certainly of a time.
And
Um,
most 80s comedies are pretty corny.
if you grew up in the late 70's, early 80's, you know this movie. You know the way things look, the way you know it's, and you're right. It's some of the humor is a little bit, it's a little bit less PC, but it's still fun, and it's not offensive, really, like truly offensive. The stuff that is in this movie is more, it's on the fringe, but it's not like mean.
It's not mean spirited in any
No,
way.
not in any way. So I don't know.
Like
Like I said,
even as somewhat insultingly racist that Hispanic character was, you could tell it was just a joke.
yes, and it wasn't. Nobody was like really. It wasn't like people were. It's not. It's not even. It's not like blackface. It's not. It's not something that's badly offensive. It's
But it is something that would never fly today.
yeah. It would. I don't think that. I don't think that scene would be in a movie today. But but sadly, I miss some of the nudity from the 70's and 80's. But I like it when they had, a little bit of TNA, and it's but
I don't think that's all that missing from the movies of today.
well, it's much harder to come by. But anyway, we'll save that for another. We should do one sometime on movies of today and yesterday with
Movies that would never fly today.
yeah, that would be our top five movies that we love that would never fly today. So we should maybe do that one time. But anyway, having said all that, people, if you would leave a like, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed our crazy talk on used cars, and if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's
Yeah,
definitely
it's on
worth a look.
Tubi, as we always say about so many things.
Yeah, yeah, yes, absolutely. It's available. So having said all that, Dom, I think we can call this one a
I think
wrap.
so.
But before we do you know your movie for next week?
I do. I do. There's no particular reason. This movie has just been on my mind and it keeps coming up.
Okay.
I'm online and references to this movie keep finding their way to me. So I take that as a message from the universe.
Yeah.
My next pick is the 2016 science fiction Arrival.
Okay. All right. Sounds
And
good.
not the 1980s Arrival with Charlie Sheen,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is, I also like that movie too,
Right.
but I'm interested in the more recent one.
Okay. So Arrival is our next movie, and yep, we'll tackle that one. And Dom, it's been fun, and I will see you next week.
Always
And
fun.
I
Can't
expect
wait for
you
next week.
I expect you to make your arrival. So, so see you next week, Dom. Take care.
Yeah.